introduce our esteemed guest, Dr. R. Mahendran Sir, Chairman of ExpoOne and the Indian Vanilla Initiative.
Dr. R. Mahendran Sir is a trailblazer in navigating the complexities of disruptive innovation within traditional industries. His multifaceted background in medicine, agriculture, and entrepreneurship underscores his unique perspective on the critical topic. Driven by his agricultural route, Dr. Mahendran Sir ventured into vanilla cultivation in 1994. Pioneering the industry in India, through ExpoOne he has revolutionized vanilla processing, establishing it as the largest processor of natural vanilla in the country. Under his leadership, ExpoOne's product line, including gourmet, extraction-grade vanilla beans, has been garnered by international recognition.
Let us now pay tribute to Sir by presenting a memento. We kindly request Dr. K. Malamati Ma'am to present Dr. R. Mahendran Sir with the memento as a token of our respect. Thank you, ma'am.
Dr. Mahendran Sir, you have the spotlight. Let us explore the transformative power of disruptive innovation together.
Esteemed guests on the dais, starting with Dr. Malamati, Mr. Shankar, Dr. Rupa, Mr. Mani, my good friend, Mr. Muralidharan, Mr. Subramaniam, and of course, Dr. Venkatapati, who just spoke before me. First of all, I'd like to thank Shankar, who's we've known each other for many years, for surprising me by calling me to come to this session. I was wondering for a moment why, and then of course I understood later the need and the importance of this session, that most of you here are students of this particular esteemed university, Bharatiya University. And so I thank you for having called me to this particular conference, which, as Dr. Venkatapati said, is very rare, where alumni come back and work along with faculty and students and then bring industry, so that we can give back to the place from which we have all come, something that will help you in your future careers. So I think that's very, appreciative of the university and the alumni and the faculty to keep doing this year after year. And I understand that the Bharatiya School of Management is almost 40 years old now. And being a native of this district, I take immense pride in saying Bharatiya University is from Coimbatore. So my best wishes and congratulations to all of you. The topic for today, of course, is disruptive innovation. Shankar already mentioned about how this particular term was coined, and many of you may know it was coined by one Mr. Christensen, who's a professor of Harvard Business School. He's the one who coined this many, many years ago, many decades ago. And now it's become literally the way that every business is run. From something, when we said disrupt, as Mahendran said, disrupt earlier means disturb, and literally like a bad word. Today, it's in business, it's become either you disrupt or you get demolished. It's become so important now to be disruptive. But what all of you as students here, because I think the whole purpose of this session, and more importantly, I'm here more to just give you my short views on it. The technical experts who are going to be talking after me in the various sessions will delve deep into that subject, but I'm just here to give you an overview. And disruption, from being literally not so good a word, has now become a necessity, is what you all have to remember. Disruption basically means there is a product or a service that is there, and you want to make it either more affordable or more accessible. So these are the four things to remember: product, service, and on the side you want to make it more affordable, accessible. So you need to have some idea of how to do that, how to make an existing product or a new product or a service more affordable and accessible, and what is your idea. Invariably, if you see so far, because of the time it may change, invariably it's been technology that's been the link in making either an existing product or service or a new product or service more affordable, accessible. Invariably, if you see, technology has been the one that's been the cause for that disruption. So there are many, many examples to that. I mean, in every industry. Let's take some examples. Maybe later, the last part of my speech, I'll come to where I probably unknowingly used disruption. But I didn't know it was disruptive. I just thought of it as an idea. But at the end of the day, it was disruptive in the three fields that I have some experience in, be it medicine, agriculture business, and then not to forget another one which is not a business, but still a service, which is politics. How do you disrupt in politics? So I think I've got a little bit of experience in all the three fields, which I'll share later. But more than that, coming to examples that all of you know, but which is probably part of everyday life now. But if you go back and think, you wonder how did these people get that idea and so many didn't. So let's take each sector, transport, Uber, or whether it's Ola or whatever now we know in our town. It was so disruptive. Right? It literally disrupted the whole transport sector itself. So much so, if you remember, there were many, a few years ago, 10 years ago, there were regular auto rickshaw or taxi drivers protesting, saying Uber should be banned. You know, there was a lot of those things going on a decade or so more ago, but now it is not. So it is more, what is important is the person who protests means, as Dr. Intipati very rightly said, he was reminding you that if you don't change, then you're going to get blown away. So you have to be open to change. Otherwise, somebody else is going to bring the change, and you're only going to be the protester who's finally going to be left on the platform, on the roadside. So in the transport industry, the best example is Uber itself. They literally changed the way the whole transport industry was functioning. But at the same time, if you look at it, what earlier people thought is going to be a loss of jobs or whatever, literally became the opposite. Today, because of Uber, you have the opportunity that many people have become entrepreneurs. People who have a car and say, I'm going to be an Uber member or whatever, and then he's an entrepreneur, small way in his own right. So it's actually done a lot for the particular industry, for society, by creating more entrepreneurs, more jobs, more incomes. So that's one example of transport sector. Then you look at retail industry. What better example than Amazon? Earlier, any product you wanted to buy literally meant you would have to go to the shop, want to see it, feel it, think about it. Today, the word Amazon is literally known in most homes across the globe. Anybody who can read knows the word Amazon. That's how e-commerce, the whole idea of e-commerce, starting with Amazon and so many other players, of course, now, is another example of a new idea that disrupted the way the retail industry itself functions. Tesla, that is a whole new idea, electrical vehicles itself. Nobody even thought about that. Today, everybody's talking about EV everywhere. Even Tamil Nadu, our state, is trying to become a leader in the electrical vehicle industry in our country. So that's another example. Another fourth example, Netflix. Earlier, you had where you used to go buy video cassettes, bring it home, the VHS played there, and probably rent it and whatnot. Today, I'm sure none of us have a VHS player, probably unless you want to keep it as an old memory. And Netflix is another example of how they totally disrupted the entertainment or the movie or the TV shows, the complete industry itself. They literally disrupted it. Apple itself. Nokia was something that we all knew earlier. If there was the first phone that we all bought, at least for me, it was all Nokias. And I remember we used to go around having a big case, and we had the Nokia communicator, if you remember, right? And it was a name known all over the world. But they didn't think of something disruptive to make that product more accessible, affordable, more user-friendly, and then came Apple. And they literally disrupted that particular industry. The whole handle, making smartphones easier to use and whatnot. Today, it's so much so that everybody aspires, everybody has a cell phone invariably, but everybody aspires, if they don't have, I'll buy an iPhone later, even though it's more expensive. That's again another example of how disruption could work. So disruptive innovation for students is different from sustainable innovation. Sustainability is different. All this, of course, I'm not an expert here, I'm not a professor, I'm just another guy who, without having, unfortunately, not probably having access to faculties required at the university much earlier in my career, I probably would have done much more things than all of you that are going to do in your careers that you did. But again, that's another example of, to come back to the different examples. I have many, but for want of time, I'm not going to. Okay. And then, of course, in the hotel industry, Airbnb. Who knew about Airbnb 5 years ago? Today, Airbnb is literally the way people book hotels, or especially abroad. It's much less common in our country, of course, but that's an example. I'm just giving you various examples of what I wanted to talk about. The next thing, of course, is the key thing is you need to have an idea. If you want to disrupt, you can't be a copycat. You can't just copy somebody else. So if you want to do something when you are in whichever industry you choose, you need to have an idea. If you don't have an idea, then you cannot think about how that idea can be implemented, how that idea can be scaled up. So the most important thing is to have an idea in whichever sector or industry that you are, so that you can say, this idea, if I implement, will make things more affordable to the user, or to make it more accessible to the user. So please, as students, remember the fact that you need to have an idea, you need to really think. So you have to credit all these people of various industries various examples that I did give so far, that you have to credit what now looks so simple, but was really so great because they had a particular idea. So it's important that you come up with ideas. Before the last part of what I want to speak is probably to give examples which I didn't know at that time was going to be disruptive. But if to give 3 examples, if I can, in the 3 sectors or that I work in or have passion for, which is health, and then of course agriculture, food processing, and then not to forget politics. How has disruption worked there? The first thing, when I was a physician, I remember that as soon as we had the first cell phones and things that came in the late 90s, how do we use that particular phone to connect with what does a patient want? Today it looks easy. What does he want? He wants to have a doctor who's accessible, who he can afford, and who he thinks is able. My professor used to say, as a doctor, you should be accessible, you should be able, and you should be available. Those are the 3 A's he said you need, and then you'll succeed. So this particular technology of the cell phone made us understand that we could have our records of the patient on our cell phone, and we could be reachable to the particular patient. And those of us who had that, along with, of course, having the ability to diagnose and treat, which is anyway a necessary criteria, but that made the fact that patients started to say, this doctor is available because of this doctor's got our records on our fingertips. And that's how I think that helped me to grow as a physician. But at the end of the day, you have to have the ability. So you can't get away with the ability to diagnose or to treat. But I'm just giving you an idea of how technology I used in the medical sector, which I still use, and in spite of whatever time that I can give, I'm still able to use what we call as telemedicine. Today is the catchword, but that telemedicine was not a word that we knew in the late 90s. But later we knew that was what is telemedicine. So that's an example, I think, of where today I'm able to travel, I'm able to sit here, I'm able to see my patient's ECG on my phone, and I'm able to say the records are on my phone, and how that disruption is working. And those doctors or physicians who do not have that are falling beside, even though they may have the ability, they have to do. So that's a good example. The next was the agriculture sector itself, where you needed to innovate and we needed to use technology. So everybody was complaining that labor is becoming more expensive, agriculture is not profitable, and so on. But we had to use technology. What was the biggest cost factor in agriculture? It's the inputs for your plant and then the labor, because agriculture itself is a labor-intensive profession. So then we have to use technology. Even if you have enough water, even if you have enough money, even if you have enough fertilizer, how do you use technology such as drip irrigation? How do you then reduce your labor cost? And how do you fertigate your plants using the drip irrigation so that you reduce your cost? And that was another huge disruption in agriculture, where earlier people said drip irrigation is where you do not have enough water. But today it is not that. Drip irrigation is necessary so that you can have more productivity, lesser cost, and therefore making that profession or that particular income more affordable. So much so, in the late 90s, I think in 98 and 2000, when I had this passion for agriculture and back to Pollachi, I remember my grandfather with, I think, Shankar's parents and my grandmother all go back generations as friends. I had greater respect for him because I was wondering how did he manage to educate us with such low incomes and making us feel like, princes even then. So I thought it on myself that I have to find a way to earn a lakh of rupees from an acre of land. That was what I wrote in my bedroom, my writing table in 1992. And I would say the only way that did become a reality was by disruption. The term I did not know, but the idea I knew, and that finally became coined as disruption in the agricultural sector. And when finally, instead of getting a lakh of rupees, it went on to 2 or 3, it only brought the income tax department more and more to my home, because they thought that I'm earning from my medical profession and not from agriculture. When everybody else is saying agriculture is not viable or profitable, they thought maybe I'm earning from there. And I remember the income tax officer saying, "You do not know, we came and sat as patients to see how much fees you're collecting, and we realized that half your patients you're treating for free and you're charging too little." And only then we started to believe there must be something. Of course, there was a Tamil Nadu Agri University, the income tax department asked them to go and investigate, and today I can say for sure, those of you who are from agricultural roots and agricultural passion, agriculture is a very, very profitable industry. I'm able to even today probably make easily 2 to 3 lakh rupees per acre, and that is only because of using technology being disruptive. That's another. Lastly, to share my thoughts before I take leave of you, because you all may know that as Shankar again mentioned, I do happen to have one foot in politics too, and today is supposed to be the candidate is to file his nomination papers in another half an hour, and I'm supposed to be there with the candidate. So therefore, after giving you my last example of disruption in politics, I will request the esteemed guest to allow me to go where I would love to hear, especially more Mr. Muralidharan's speech especially, but I will get the inputs from Shankar. Again, in politics. Traditionally, politics was about where people go around, shouting slogans on the road and putting up these meetings, and then public are supposed to be coming and sitting there and listening. I realized that politics, in a way, the benefit of being in politics is irrespective of it being a minefield, for sure. It's not for the light-hearted. Don't get into it unless you are well settled and you can take all those bumpy roads, which I still enjoy. I realized that how do we connect this traditional way of politics is not going to work. How do you use technology to take what we call in politics a man, a message, and a missionary? A message means ideology. There's some ideology for every political party. A man means you have a leader who's trying to be the head of the particular message being thrown at the person who is to listen, which is the voting public. And the missionary means those people who are supposed to go and deliver this particular message, the ideology, from that particular leader or leaders to the public. So man, message, missionary is what we say. Then I realized that very soon that this particular idea of nobody is interested in going and sitting at these rallies or whatever, those are more like showing who can make a bigger rally than the other fellow. That's more a show of strength, and it's, if I may say so off the record, it's becoming purely how much can you afford to bring, rather than how much is true strength. But I realized when I wanted to get into politics to pass a message, I said, let's use what we did in medicine, use the social media which is technology. Today you have artificial intelligence, as Dr. Rupa already said, and how do you use that to pass the message? So in the years 2018 to 21 especially, for literally 3.5 years, I know that we did a brand of politics which, even though did not go on with the particular person, whatever, that's, I'm not here to talk about politics, but about how disruption can work, wherein without spending a rupee on either getting people to come and listen to you, or spending a rupee to make people to vote for you, how you use the social media to take the message of what you want the public to know, and what is your ideology, and what is the person that you should choose. That was where, again, I think we did a brand of disruptive politics in Tamil Nadu in 18 to 21, and I think that is another example, and I intend to use that more and more and more in the places that I am. And as a closing note, all I would say is, please, as people who are, I guess everybody above 18, do not, I will use one line of politics, do not waste your vote. Please make sure you go and vote. That's a particular freedom that has been earned, a right that has been earned by years of struggle by our forefathers. So please do not, on that particular day when you have the right to execute it, don't sit at home and watch Netflix. Don't do that. Go and exercise it. So that's another passing example. Having said that, once again I thank everybody on the dais and Shankar and the faculty here for having given me this opportunity. I've just given you a few 10 or 15 minutes of examples of disruption that have worked, and I hope that all of you in your careers when you pass out from the university here have good success, and you keep thinking of how you need to constantly be aware that you need to find ideas. And you have to be open to ideas, you have to invest in, even if you don't get the idea, you have to invest in people who are researchers in R&D that can come up with ideas. And if you do not do that in any business, any sector that you are, you may not be able to keep up with the pace that is growing. I wish you all you students all the very best in your careers, and I hope to see you again. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your expertise have provided us with a deeper understanding of this critical topic with examples. Now, we request Mr. S. Manikandan, sir, to present memento to Dr. R. Mahendran, sir, as a token of love.